Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about this object, this hairdryer. In a lot of ways, I think this hairdryer is going to be pretty straightforward in terms of what you want to do. I think the difficult areas are going to be the cutting in the paneling. That's kind of, cutting a panel that goes straight across like this is easy, but cutting in this panel that kind of leans back into it's going to be a little bit more complex. So I think this one's probably going to be using booleans to some degree. Let's go ahead and keep drawing. So there's a lot of booleans. I'm going to cut into this. I'm going to cut into this, or I'm not going to actually do it. This shape, thankfully, this object is a separate piece, so it can have its own unique topology, which makes it easier. It's a lot harder when you have complex, different shapes connecting together, like this handle connecting into the body, right? Because they're welded, the topology has to line up and connect to itself. Or connect to each other, and so that makes it significantly harder. But this object right here is pretty easy. This object right here is different because the button's going to be separate, so that can have its own topology, but I still have to create a hole for that button to go into. So it still is fairly complex. And then talking about this down here is going to be tricky as well, because I think I see some screws, so I'd want to make those as separate objects. That's easy. And then these different shaped holes are kind of hard. Okay. So let's take a look at this. I'll pull this over to my other screen for a second. Okay, don't save. All right, so what I'd do is I'd have my flat drawing that I'd import. This one's quite a perspective. I can drop it in though, just so I can take a look at it. So view, image plane, import image, downloads, date modif. Oh, there it is, found it. That was fast. And I might crop it before I bring it in just to make it easier for me so it's not taking up all the screen, and I can straighten it and do other things to it to kind of help. So I'm going to pull it in right there. I'm going to go 3D view mode just so I can I'll just have it in the background as I work. Bring the alpha down to this level. And I have an image brought up on another screen, and I'll bring the alpha back up or bring the image over. Actually, let's just go ahead and do it that way. And I'll pull this over to the side. I'm not going to be modeling against this object really. I'm just kind of bringing it in. So obviously, what I want to do is I want to get kind of start by blocking out some of these basic shapes. So I might start with this kind of clown horn shape that I got here. So it's kind of like a rounded shape that transitions into this kind of telephone end right here. So both of those are probably fairly simple to make. Like I said earlier, getting this Boolean cut right here is something I need to work on. Luckily, though, I can kind of, these two pieces aren't really welded together, so I don't really have to worry so much about the vertices connecting if I really don't want to worry about that. There's a line that goes down the middle, so what I probably want to do is make sure I have a line that goes through there so I can cut my piece into like two shells, like this shell and this shell. But I still want those to kind of line up pretty easily. Like I said, this is going to be pretty easy. The only problem is I want to get that divot or that indentation inside of my handle for the button to slide through. I'm going to get that get that hole, or get this extrusion going on, which looks like it's welded on there. It's kind of hard to tell with this image. Let's go ahead and start with the basic shape. I'm going to start with this object right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, so this is fairly spherical. I could either use a cylinder, right? And then let's go ahead and push this back in space. Oop, push it back in space. Okay. So I can start with a cylinder, right? And then, rotate it, and then, extrude and taper it in that direction. Let's start with, I like to do powers of 2. So 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, etc., etc. So numbers that are divisible. If you can, you don't have to, but they kind of divide and subdivide really nicely. I like to turn my subdivision caps to 0, if I can. Let's see if it'll let me. There we go. Because I usually don't like dealing with all those triangles. I'd rather just cut this myself and fix it by hand. And so what I can do is I can grab this guy, extrude him back. I'm going to just kind of get that curved shape. And then what I can do is I'm going to insert an edge loop, grab this guy. I can do a mesh average. Oh my god, 1 second. Not average. Edit edge flow, right? To kind of get that going. And then I might grab this face, bring it forward a little bit. And so you can see I'm trying to, like, I'm doing a lot of work to try to match that shape. So what in this case, it might actually be easier for me to, one other thing I do is I could just start with a sphere instead. Probably bring the subdivisions down quite a bit. So bring this down to, this one to 16 and bring this down a lot lower, right? Bring that down there, right? And I can do that. And again, I'd fix this cap so the cap is easy to mess with, right? But I already have that shape going. Really, I need to like really underscore, you do not want to have to deal with this topology because it makes it very difficult to work with. Come on, get it. Interrupting my recording. Oh, sorry, that was my cat. Okay. Another thing you can do is we can take a cube, right? I can go to Mesh, Smooth, and it'll smooth and subdivide it. I'll do 2 subdivision levels. And so I have a round sphere shape, but I also have like this kind of nice friendly topology at the back, right? I have these poles right here, which, you know, they're things. They're not, it's not the worst thing in the world, but they're, you know, they're present. I might just try to work from this guy, just because I want to just try it out. I think any of those options are valid. So what I would do is I'd spend some time getting this shape to match what my object is. I'm noticing that, let's go here, I'm going to insert an edge loop. And I'm going to grab these vertices, and I'm going to move them out this way, right? It's kind of, it's a bit of a, it's not super rounded, it's more round, it's hard to tell, but it's more rounded at the back, but it's pretty straight or cylindrical for most of it. So I might do something like that. Another thing I could do is I could actually use a cylinder, right? I know how many polygons I have here, so I can just go double click on this 16, perfect, and grab this object, and then I can grab create a cylinder, rotate this. If there's any objects or shapes like this sphere right here or the cylinder here that's it takes you a long time to create, like to recreate that from another object, right? So like I was doing earlier where I was trying to extrude a cap that was rounded from a cylinder, sometimes it's easier just to go ahead and model it, actually model out a cylinder or model out a sphere and then just connect them together, right? And all you need to do is you need to make sure your topology is the same between, or the edge loop count is the same between them. So select both of these objects, mesh, combine, grab these edge loops, bridge them together, and I'd have to scale this guy out a little bit just so I don't get that really weird taper, and then I can pull this forward. Right, and so that's a pretty good start for that back area, right? I probably need to bulge it out. I'm not really looking at reference too much. So, which I should be, turn off soft select, scale it in this direction, bulge it out, right, something like that. And then what I would want to do is I'd need to figure out the, let's go ahead and add another subdivision level just for now. And then probably want to slide this forward a bit just so it's a little more even. Okay, so a couple things I could do. One is you're noticing that because I was doing that bridge right there, those normals, they didn't get fixed. I could just go to mesh display. If I really cared about it, I could do soften/harden normals, and that's just going to try to, look at the curvature of my mesh and figure out whether it's supposed to be a soft or hard normal. 2 things I might do at this point. First, one thing is I might go ahead and try to figure out the cut here. I think these are both kind of separate issues, so you can kind of do them whatever order you want. So I might do, so this cut into this object is a Boolean cut right here. I could probably just move these polygons in a way that I can just approximate that shape. Another thing I could do is I could just use a another cylinder. Let's get this to the right. Get this to the right rotation. Move this forward, right? And so I can use a Boolean cut to kind of cut that shape out of my mesh, right? And so let's go ahead and pull that up. It's a little bit more shallow in this direction, so I can pull that forward. Let's set this to flat shaded mode, just so I can make sure I'm getting the right cuts. All right, and the one thing I'm going to want to do is, let's pull that forward. I'm just looking at this intersection between these two objects, right? So I can match that, and it's probably further back. The one thing I'm going to want to look at is the intersection of these polygons, right? So I'm probably going to want to change the number of subdivisions on this object to try to line up as best as I can with this object. Right. And this is okay. I think this is pretty decent, actually. What I could do is I can grab a few of these edges to kind of help with the cleanup later and just pull them around just so they line up a little bit better with the source mesh. So I'm going to go there. This one right here, that's going to pull it till it just about intersects. This one's fine. I'll pull that down and then maybe pull this one down a little bit too. All right, and then what I can do is grab this, and then go mesh Boolean difference, right? And then I have something like this. One thing I definitely don't like about this is that it comes to a single point. So what I'd probably want to do is I'd want to make sure I have like some supporting edges that pull out, or at least pull this guy back, or even maybe cut off these faces right here. Delete those, and then just close that hole up or something like that. So I might go insert edge loop. Oh, it's not going to let me insert an edge loop because that's not, these are n-gons. So I might go here down to here, and then just weld these guys together. So take this target weld and just snap it up. And then do this. I'll go around the perimeter. And with any Boolean, the problem is if I press smooth, you can see a lot of these, even though these vertices are really close together, they're not going to do the trick. So I'm going to grab this. I'm only going to worry about one side for now. And I'm going to use weld to center, merge to center. And I'm just going to press G to redo the operation I'm doing. So I'm like clicking and dragging, and I'm making sure I'm doing it at an angle so I'm not going to accidentally click and drag through my mesh like that, because that's going to obviously cause a huge problem. So grab this, G, grab this one, G, and then grab this one, G. And I'll mirror it in a second to get the other side. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. And so I'm just going to click and drag through my mesh, get rid of that half object, and I'm going to mirror my objects, and I'm going to do it in the z-axis. And that edge is not lining up, so I'm going to have to fix that. So what I'll just do is, probably the easiest way is just grab these guys and then weld them, or merge them to center. There we go. So then what I can do is I can grab my polygons that go around the perimeter. And two things I could do. One is I could do a bevel, right? So I might do a bevel. Oops. For some reason it didn't bring up the beveling options. Okay. Right, I could do something like that with another segment on it, and that's just going to really crisp up that edge, right? And that's pretty good, right? That looks pretty decent. I want to modify this shape right here a little bit. These guys right here. All right, to get this specific shape I want, and so I could do it like that. And then what I could do is, what I might do is if I want to get that silver piece, so the silver piece is almost like the inverse of this. So what I might do is I might be clever. I'm going to duplicate my mesh. I'm going to go to Show, Isolate Selected. So we're only going to look at this duplication I made. I'm going to delete everything besides this Boolean part, right? The part that's been cut out. So I'll go in here, select this. And I'm going to actually grab these guys. So I'm going to grab everything. I'm going to extrude. And then I'm going to move this extrusion this way. Let's turn off soft select. And then I'm going to flatten it, right? And so what that's going to do is it's going to make it so, let's turn off, I don't know how I got so many extrusions going on. Let's go ahead and add a few more subdivision levels. Let's put another one closer here and one here. And I'm not going to worry about that shape right now. You should, but I'm just trying to illustrate this. But you can see now we have this kind of like inverse that we got right there, right? We got the inverse of this Boolean shape right there. See that? It's Pringle shape. And so that's like one way I can get those guys. I wouldn't need the interior of that so much, of that silver part, because you're not going to see it. And then the problem is maybe I'll just take this. Let's put this to like right around here, and I'll put a holding edge. And I'll just delete this for now, and then set that to smooth shaded. Like I said before, I don't really need these. I'm going to add a interior holding edge right around here just to keep that pretty sharp. And then what I'm going to do is I don't really want this face right here. It probably looks like I'm going really fast, but actually let me Control Z for a second. Let's just look at this object. I don't want any of this interior geometry just because I don't really need it. I probably don't need this extra holding edge I created. It's just extra unnecessary topology. Alright, so that's good enough. I mean, you can see there's kind of a gap there, so maybe I would have wanted, let's go back. So let's just go here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these edges here. I go all the way around, and I might just kind of scale these guys in. So scale them in. Now I can get rid of these guys. Okay. Unhide. And then maybe I'll just move this back a little bit to kind of disguise that. All right. So I can do something like that. And then I can tell right now that those shapes aren't perfect. But what I'll do is I can, for the front part, the silver part that's right there, I did it this way. I don't know if this is necessarily the best way, deleting all that front part. It's probably easier just to kind of keep that extrusion. Oh, actually, let me, crap, keep undoing and redoing the same work. All right, and go here. I can just select this edge right here, extrude that forward, flatten that, and then I can start getting the shapes I need, right? So this front part's pretty straight. I'm going to maybe scale it down a little bit. Add another edge loop in right around here. Maybe get it to start to taper. These guys right here, what I might do is let's go ahead and delete that, Control Delete, so I can get rid of my vertices and my edges. And really just kind of starting to focus on getting my taper, or this shape for the guy, or for the hairdryer. I'm not worrying too much about this because I don't have the reference images I need to get the specific shapes I need, right? Flattening it out, right? So I'm just flattening it like this. To get this bevel right there, or this edge, what I might do, that's pretty easy. I'm just going to add a edge right around where that is, add another edge that's right after it, and then I can just scale that one in a little bit, and maybe even pull it back. And then I can just put two holding edges on either side of this shape. And then when I smooth it out, I'm doing this really fast, but you can see when I smooth it out, I'm going to get a pretty sharp edge. And I can put another holding edge in there. So let's take a look at the handle, right? The handle's going to be kind of like the base, right? I might make it, well, since it attaches to the cord at the bottom and I'm going to have a hole, I might just go ahead and start from a cylinder. I would start obviously from modeling against my reference. Like I said, I'm skipping the reference part because, trying to match the shapes, because I don't have the reference images you guys have. So I'm just going to kind of get the basic shape, just block it in just so you can see it. So I'm going to go ahead, and it kind of has an angle to it. I'll make it longer, and it's going to have some taper as well. So I'm going to pull it down. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to adjust my poly count in a second, but let's make sure that I'm using subdivision cap 0. It makes it easier for me to select and delete those holes. Let's bring this down at least to 16 for now. And let's take a look at the welding these together. So right now I can tell that's a little too many polygons, right, for this object. So what I might do is drop it down to 8. I'm a little worried about that because it does seem like that's a little too low, especially since I'm going to be like cutting into it. So what I might do is I might need to smooth this object out. So grab both these guys to smooth them, so I have, well, essentially 4 times as many polygons, and then I can bring this up to a higher poly count. So one of the areas I'm worried about is cuts and panels and lines that are cut into a curved surface. When the poly count's really low, they become really kind of gnarly. But I'm just going to kind of go for just to kind of see what we can get. So I'm going to make sure I'm getting my tapering going on. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to delete that face, which is nice because it'll make it easier for me to just double click select that edge loop. And it bulges more in the center, right? And I'm just kind of going quickly through this here, and then put one down here, and then we'll just scale this one in. And I might just go ahead and just grab those guys and delete them. And then I can extrude this out. And I'm spending way too much time worrying about stuff I'm not supposed to worry for this example, right? And so in this case, I'm working with 8 because I see that that's going to line up really easily because I can just grab 4 faces right here, and I can just extrude them. Do slight offset, so I'm going to do small offset, or do a pretty big offset. I'll go ahead and circularize them, right? Delete the hole. And then what I can do is just like the other objects, I can grab these mesh, combine, and then I can just bridge these guys together, right? And I might want to grab this guy, delete that. I can't tell from the pictures like what this transition is between these objects, but what I might want is a subdivision like that, so that it doesn't kind of bridge too much onto the other mesh, right? So what I might do is let's go grab this guy and I'll slide him down. I'm just using the slide edge tool. Okay, turn off that. And what I should be doing with these objects is assign a Phong material, assign an existing material, Phong material, just so I can look at the forms and shapes on it, right? So it's decent. It's not super pretty. The handle is definitely way too thin. So on the end cap, what I'm going to do is I could just go ahead and extrude it out like I did with like a lot of other objects. If I really want that specific bowl shape, what I might do is I might just start, again, kind of like how I combined the back end of this to the cylinder, is I might just start with like a simple sphere, drop it down to, I know these guys are 16, so I'm going to drop it down to 16. And then height, let's just drop it down to something really low, right? Something kind of like 8. I'm not going to worry about the top part. Oops. I can get rid of this bottom part as well. So I'm just grabbing these faces at the bottom, delete. And I'm just going to rotate this in the J direction, or with J. And then I can just scale it up, and then I can start to, block it in, and maybe I'll just kind of taper that a little bit. All right, and I'm just doing, like everything else, I'm just doing this super roughly for now, just for the example. So please spend more time matching your shapes. All right. And then I can bridge those guys in a second. Then what I can do is I can go ahead and grab these guys, scale them in a little bit, grab it, scale it in a little bit more, pull it in, maybe block it into right there. And then what I'm going to do is I could bridge and merge them together. The problem is this specific shape with all these holes are probably going to be hard to make with like the spherical triangular topology, so I probably want a grid, because a grid's like a grid that you would find on a plane is easy topology, right? The problem is I want to make sure that these boundary edges are going to be able to weld to this right here, right? So I need to make sure that they're 16 across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably have, I think it's 4 and 4 probably. So that's going to give me 16, yep. I don't think I have enough topology here for let's go pull this that way for those holes that I want to make. And I'm probably not going to spend too much more time on this. But what I can do is I can grab the boundary perimeter. Let's go ahead and extrude it out. Let's do an offset. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and circularize it. Right? And so you can see I can transition pretty easily. Let's go ahead and combine all three of these objects together. So mesh combine. And I notice this is I need to transition back to that black plastic. So, you know, I probably have another separate object right here. So it goes from black plastic to silver, back to black plastic. But I'm just going to pretend for now that this is all one piece. Mesh combine. I'm going to bridge these guys, right? Because they're 16 and 16, really easy to bridge. Right, same thing with these guys, 16 and 16, really easy to bridge, right? And then I can go ahead and, you know, insert my edge loops to make that like a harder surface, right? And I might want to get a little bit of like more of a round bevel on this. So there's a lot of cleaning up I can do. I can grab this, pull that forward, just so it kind of has a little bit more of a shape there. And then I might also add one more edge loop right in here just to kind of really sharpen that, right? And so then the holes is a totally different project, not project, but, you know, like a whole different approach. Screws can be separate objects, so those are really easy, but we have like a center hole, a cross shape, and then some boundary holes. So I'd have to figure out with the grid that I put in here how I'm going to do this, right? So figuring out how I'm going to cut this up, but I'm going to save that for a different kind of topic. But yeah, so that's basics of how I'd approach this object. The chord, I'd extrude a shape, and I'll have this in a separate video that cuts along, or it extrudes along a curve, so you draw out a curve. Don't do it like this, you know, make it straight, so it's just like a straight chord. But then you can extrude a simple shape around it. So yeah, so that's how to approach something like this. And let me go ahead and stop the video.